Hey guys, Jackdaw is finally back. I apologise for my absence recently. If you didn't know, I am currently a university student who studies journalism, believe it or not, and recently my university work just spiked, so I apologise for my absence recently. That's why I've been streaming, because streaming is a lot more easier than the level of depth I do within my videos. But again, I apologise, and I'm back in the game, looking at Dragon Age of course. So getting into today's video, recently I've been looking at the Dragon Age franchise as a whole. I said in my last video, which I know was a fair while ago, but within that video I talked about Dragon Age Origins, and I mentioned the fact that with the unknown possibilities around Dragon Age 4, it feels a tiny bit pious to just do content solely based on Dragon Age 4 speculation. So instead of just talking about Dragon Age 4 in a speculative manner, I'm actually just shaking my content up a bit and looking at the industry, looking at BioWare, looking at the Dragon Age franchise. So with all of this being said, today I am doing a discussion based topic all about the next Dragon Age project returning to its original dark fantasy roots. However, my lovely viewers, before I delve into this and get carried away like I always do, what exactly is dark fantasy? Well, according to TV Tropes, that very well trusted site, dark fantasy is generally speaking a darker and edgier subgenre of fantasy. These kind of stories can be pretty much described as standard fantasy setting meets crapsack world. As opposed to the usual light-hearted regular fantasy setting, oftentimes common fantasy elements are deconstructed or played in the darkest way possible. And the best you can hope for is grey morality. Some other sites claim it's horror meets fantasy. So this definition is really quite wordy. How about a few more simpler definitions? Fantasy that borrows elements of horror and often features dark, evil, supernatural creatures. However, unlike horror, the focus of the story is not to scare the reader, it's fantasy that is bleak, pessimistic, brutal, gritty and graphic. And another definition: the dark side of human nature is not off limits and protagonists are not necessarily sympathetic. Dark fantasy often overlaps with other subgenres of fantasy such as urban fantasy and paranormal. So we kind of get the gist of what dark fantasy is. I like the expression of dark fantasy being an amalgamation of both the horror and the fantasy genre. However, it's not intending to scare, it's intending to create a realistic dark atmosphere within its world. This mood is created by the fact that there are no restrictions towards topics and subject matter that is explored within the media. So spiraling to my main point within this discussion, Dragon Age Origins is the most iconic dark fantasy role-playing game ever in my opinion. As a result, I want Dragon Age 4 to go back to its original dark fantasy roots. It makes sense, right? Dragon Age Origins was deeply entranced with this dark fantasy genre. The game encompasses topics vastly different and deep. There are so many unique examples within the game. To point out a few scenarios in Dragon Age Origins that definitively represent the dark fantasy genre. Well, there's the entire Connor questline in Redcliffe Castle. The hero of Ferelden has multiple choices to deal with the manifested kid. The darkest path within this quest is to kill Connor only by knocking out his mother first. Only then Al Eamon can be free from the creature that haunts his mind. This has got to be the most wicked moment within the game. Killing a kid who had good intentions for his father's health, and the only way to kill Connor is by first knocking out his mother who begs for her son's life. Damn, that is dark. But guys, if you know any more brutal, wicked moments within Dragon Age Origins, do let me know. Get back to me on that. Then there's also the creepy brood mothers who we have to fight, and then the weird poetry that scares the crap out of me when we hear it in the deep roads. And alongside that creepiness, the narrative has so many dark and spooky themes, like sexualized horror, sinister magic, violence and crime, vile behaviors, strong sexual themes, hella tons of blood, especially in cinematics on the character. We have moral ambiguity, horrific mutation, etc, etc, etc. Heck, even within the first origin stories of Dragon Age Origins, you couldn't get through the first 30 minutes of the game without your family either being slaughtered, your new wife being abducted, or your brother backstabbing you. It's definitively dark fantasy. Now, compared to Dragon Age Inquisition, the most recent Dragon Age game, none of these deep, saturated dark fantasy elements really occur within the game. game. Of course, we have mild dark fantasy themes like the sinister magic and the creepy creatures, but concerning a narrative surrounded by both horror and the fantasy genres, well, the franchise takes a nosedive in terms of sustaining the dark fantasy aesthetic and ambience. This feel and mood that Dragon Age Origins crafted so well and really built the franchise on. In my opinion, this dark fantasy element within Dragon Age Origins really sold the game. It was rarely ever seen within video games back then, and if we contrast the times, in 2017 we've seen so many successful dark fantasy role-playing games that have came out, like The Witcher 3, Dragon's Dogma, Dungeon Siege 3, etc. Lo, back before Dragon Age Origins, this genre was rarely explored in video games. It's been since the success of Dragon Age Origins that this amalgamation of the two genres has been able to captivate and then spread. If you want to learn more about how Dragon Age Origins really revolutionized the role-playing genre, then do not hesitate to check out my latest video. Now, going back to Dragon Age 4, this unknown project that is hopefully in the works, I really feel that for the new game, BioWare should strive to bring back this feel that the original two Dragon Age games had. Origins more than 2, however Dragon Age 2 still felt thoroughly dark fantasy. Now, no matter how much I love Dragon Age Inquisition, and believe me, I do, it's a game I'm still sinking into weekly. I've spent 54 days, 5 hours and 52 minutes in the game, and that is just on my Xbox One. I adore the game, but no matter how much I love this game, I still feel that Inquisition feels a tad too different in terms of its feel and mood. You know, we've come from Dragon Age Origins where our hero is against a massive army of medieval zombies and a friggin' dragon, whilst also being enraptured into this politically screwed and morally ambiguous world full of dread, grit and magic. Even though we're surrounded by the most banterous cast since HBO's Silicon Valley, there's still an element of nihilism, even with Liliana's classy faith spreading and subjective singing. If you want to know what I mean by subjective singing, then do check out my video where I talk about Dragon Age and its singing dilemma. And then we are teleported into a different area of Thedas within Dragon Age 2, the city of Kirkwall. Lo, no matter the location, the world of Thedas is still entranced with this nihilistic feel. With the issues of Dragon Age Origins slightly being sorted, the rebellion of the Mage Alliance arises, bringing chaos and blood magic to Kirkwall. The plot again invokes a lot of political rabble, however it includes a nice family dynamic, which in most cases ends up pretty dysfunctional, like any regular family. But it's pretty more dramatic given the hero's mother's death, which is just twisted and truly representative of the dark fantasy genre. And now we have Dragon Age Inquisition, which, don't get me wrong, is so good, but doesn't do the dark fantasy genre any justice, at least compared to the other games. Inquisition is all about creating an army, the hero having proven themselves to be this mighty saviour who has a gift like no one else. The world has this slight dark overtone, but I feel that this is only achieved because of what the previous games built and cultivated that then craft this feel. Of course, the aim of Dragon Age Inquisition is to kill the evil twisted Corypheus and his army, and the themes and the subject matter within the game do hit on dark fantasy tones, but they just feel shallow compared to how deep the franchise delved within the first game. It's just a bummer to see BioWare losing their luster that they carefully and beautifully crafted within the original Dragon Ages. Unfortunately, it's this diversification that BioWare is doing to try and make their games appeal more to the mainstream audiences. This strategy is happening to so many other games too, especially the role-playing genre. Just look at Fallout 4 and how that diversified itself. Also, with EA in the crossfires, it will not help BioWare going back and trying to achieve an alternative audience. They're always going to be pushed to go for the mainstream because EA want more money. However, I'm not going to leave you all empty-handed and frustrated. Of course, we all want dark fantasy elements to come back. We want Dragon Age 4 to return to its roots. Now, some good news we have is the fact that Alexis Kennedy, the new writer working on the Unknown Dragon Age project, is great at crafting dark narratives. His most recent game was all about Lovecraftian horror. This genre has been a direct influence not just to the Dragon Age franchise, not just to BioWare, but to hell many RPGs IPs as a whole. We can see so many aspects of Lovecraftian horror in literally all RPGs. So to put it simply, Alexis Kennedy is great at writing such themes like horror and death. So ironically, there's hope yet. And guys, don't forget that Patrick Weeks is still cooking away at BioWare. You know, the exact writer who broke your heart with his entire creation of the character Solas. So even if Dragon Age 4 isn't directly dark fantasy, then there'll still be some tragically heartbreaking romances that will make us either want to throw our controller at the screen, or if you're PC, then I don't know, use your imagination, tab out or something. So to close, this video started out as a discussion video, transitioned then into a wish list and then a history lesson, and instead has actually become more of a news video with some saucy speculation. This being of the whole Alexis Kennedy and his experience with writing horror. So I guess what I'm saying is take this video as you will. I guess it's like abstract art, you know, you need to tell me your interpretation down below and we can correspond over that. Anyway guys, for all your things BioWare, Dragon Age, Mass Effect's anticipated future, and of course Anthem, and heck, maybe a few IPs I might just steer myself into, well, you're already in the right place for all that jazz. Until the next one, which I hope will be very soon, I apologise again. I have been Jackdaw, and I should go. Whoa.